Um, I just figured I'd pick up where I left off last time. Even if you weren't here, I did upload the first review session to Blackboard. Sorry, Blackboard, YouTube. And so you can watch that for anything that you missed. And if you have a question, just either raise your hand and then on the you know the the Zoom functions there, or just type into the chat. But I think I'm just going to work through a couple of these heparin protocol questions. If you weren't here last time, this is the new thing that you are being introduced to, is these heparin protocols. So you're going to have one of these, but I gave you a bunch to practice. Um, uh, the couple things to when you're looking at the heparin protocol, you're going to see this big monstrosity of a protocol. So if you do a Google search or any kind of, internet search for heparin protocol, this is the standard weight-based heparin protocol, where you're going to have all this information, steps 1 through 15. You do not need to answer all of the information there. In fact, I crossed out all the things that you're not responsible for worrying about as it pertains to the math portion of the test. Okay. Really, what they're asking you to do is they're giving you the protocol, which is to bolus a patient with heparin 80 units per kilogram body weight, and then to start a drip at 18 units per kilogram per hour. They're going to give you a patient weight in pounds. You're just going to convert it to kilograms. And then they're going to give you some availables. The available is listed in step 2 of the protocol, 25,000 units in 250 milliliter half normal saline. And then they're also going to give you a bolus dose strength of 1,000 units per milliliter. Step 10 in the protocol just repeats what the protocol is, just to bolus with 80 units per kilogram. So what they're testing you on is, can you look at this and decipher what information you need to answer this? I do feel that when you guys get in the fourth semester, it'll look more like the ones that are below this. Um, and then you can kind of see what that looks like from a simplistic view. So on your test, you're going to get one question that'll have two parts. It'll be calculate a bolus dose and calculate an infusion rate. Most likely, you're going to get what I've labeled as A, B. So you'll get like part one, part two, but it's all one question. So if you miss one or you miss two, you've only missed one question. Okay. But after I show you this a couple times, you'll get it right 100% of the time. It's just the nuance of figuring this things out. This part C would be just after the patient's been on the protocol for 6 hours, they're going to assess their APTT, and they're going to look to see um, if they need to make any adjustments. And so in this scenario, I put it at 43 seconds. 43 seconds fits into the step 12 of the protocol, where it tells you to rebolus and then to increase your infusion rate. Okay. So the standard weight-based heparin protocol is just that. It's just telling you what to do. Okay. All right. So let's do some of these ones that I didn't answer last time, where this is just kind of like I cut out all the extra wording, the whole table, and I just gave you the meat of what you need to know. So I gave you the meat of the patient's weight, the order, and the available, and then I asked you to calculate the bolus and the IV drip. So if I can get you to focus on these and you can get these right, I think you're going to be really good. So let's work through these. And as always, um, you can, if you raise your hand, just it'll stop me. If you have a question, type it into the chat. If there's another section you want to work on, great, let's do that. But I figured most 230 students want to work through the heparin protocol. So it says to calculate the number of milliliters to administer for the bolus. I have a 165-pound patient, so I'm going to go ahead and convert that to kilograms. And if I can find my phone/calculator. All right, so 165 divided by 2.2, and then I get a nice round, even 75 kilograms. So with calculating a bolus, I'm just going to follow the order. So it tells me I need a bolus with 80 units per kilogram. So I'm going to take my 75 kilograms times my 80 units per kilogram. Now, if I leave it as this, I'm going to be in units, okay? I don't want units. It tells me we're looking for milliliters. So I have to do another step, and I have to convert units to milliliters. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to look at my available. I have two pieces of information available. I have 25,000 units and 250 milliliters half normal saline. That's your IV. And then it says I have a bolus dosage strength of the 1,000 units per milliliter. So I want to use the bolus dose strength for the bolus dose information. So that's 1,000 units per milliliter. So units are gone. I'm left in milliliters, and I know I've set everything up right before I've done any kind of calculation. And now I'm just going to multiply across the top, 75 times 80, divide by what's in the bottom, 1,000, and I get 6 milliliters. So my bolus dose is going to be 6 milliliters. Infusion rate. So we have the same patient, same weight. This time I'm going to multiply by my the order, which tells me to start a drip at 18 units per kilogram per hour. So 18 units kilogram per hour. Kilograms gone. I'm in units per hour, but we're looking for ml per hour. So again, I need to convert units to milliliters. This time, I'm not going to use the bolus. I'm going to use the IV. So 25,000 units, 250 ml. And then I'm going to get 75 times 18 times 250 divided by 25,000. And I'm going to get 13.5 ml per hour. Now, this hasn't happened because it usually doesn't happen with you guys because you are conditioned or know that your units will be given to you what you're looking for. But sometimes when you see that word drip, you might think drops per minute. The only time I can do drops per minute is if they give me a drop factor. And since it's not there, then we're not doing that. We're not looking for drops per minute. But if you think about this, this is about a tablespoon per hour. Okay. So that's coming out very slowly. It is dripping. Okay. That's just the way that is the way that they're having you answer these particular types of questions. So it is a drip because, like I said, it's a tablespoon per hour, and that's very, very slow. Okay. If you think about how quickly you could swallow a tablespoon of something, it could be in less than a second, right? So the fact that it's being diffused over an hour, it tells you that it's dripping in very slowly. Okay. So this would be one question. A potential question that could come up would be they might give you all this information here, patient weight, what the patient, the original order, the available, and they might say we need to edit the order because after 6 hours we got a new APTT and it tells us to rebolus with 40 units per kilogram and increase the rate by 2 units per kilogram. So in order to do anything with this increase, you would need to know what the original was. Okay. So that's why you might see it listed with everything, but they might only ask you to answer the new order, not this right here. So they might just give you all this information, and then this would be like kind of blocked out, and you wouldn't even see it. Okay. Um, so the new order working through this just now it just becomes another question, right? And you're going to do the same thing you did previously. You're going to calculate the bolus and then calculate the IV. Okay, so let's practice it. So we're still talking about the same patient here. So the patient's still 75 kilograms, but instead of 80 units, now it's 40 units per kilogram. My available stays the same, the 1,000 units per milliliter. And then before I do anything, I know I'm in my correct unit milliliters, and then my answer is just going to be 3 milliliters. So it should be exactly half of the original bolus. But if you're not calculating, you may not know what it is originally. Now, for the new infusion rate, we have to go back. We can't just add 2 to the original. I mean, maybe it works out, but it would be by luck. We have to edit the original. So if the original was 18, I need to then, and it's telling me to increase. So I need to go to 18 plus 2 for 20. So I need to increase it by 2, 20 units kilogram hour. If I don't increase it there, then I'm not going to get the right answer. And then you're just going to relate it to your IV. They're still on the IV. That hasn't changed. They're still connected. Units is gone. I'm in now milliliters per hour. And then I'm going to do my new calculation. 75 times 20 times 250 divided by 25,000. And then now you're going to see if you had just increased it by 2, you may have put 15.5, but the answer is 15 milliliters per hour. So again, you're just practicing working through this. The trick is just reading the label. What does it want you to do? You're only going to answer 2 questions, but I'm giving you 4 questions because I'm trying to give you extra practice. I want you to be so tired of this that that it makes sense when you're actually doing this later on. And you can see I just repeated, and all I did was change the patient's weight. Okay. You just follow directions. Now, are there variations to this? Are there different heparin available, different bolus dose strengths? Yeah, there might be. So you just follow whatever it is that you are following, like whatever it tells you to do. Whatever the available is, that's what you utilize. Whatever the order is, that's what you follow. But like I said, if it tells you to increase or decrease the rate, you do need to know what the original was. No one's asking you to go through and figure that all out on your own. There are ways to do that, but it's a little bit more advanced algebra that you don't necessarily need to be doing. So, um, so what questions do you have? Do you want me just to keep working through these next 2 heparin protocols? Do you want to look at some of the flow rate questions? What questions do you have?
Maybe like more of the flow rate ones.
You got it. Let's just start from my beginning here. All right, so let's work through these here, and then we'll go back to some of the other ones. I did pull out and I did remove something that might be in your packet. I just don't have a copy of your packet. Give me 1 second. I'll pull up the the uh the thing I'm talking about. So I just did this with the 130 students just in case it might show up on your test. It's those reconstitution questions. I'm hopeful that we're in the process of removing those. So I'm going to add this to this set here. I'm just going to add it at the end. 1 second here. It's just these questions. If you've seen these previously with the reconstitution questions, where it's asking you to do that, just keep. I'll add these here. We can come back to them if you're getting hung up on this, but I think once you've seen it and you're probably fine. Remember on this one, if when it tells you to choose the strongest concentration, just make sure you're just looking over here. You could just ignore this area that I've crossed out because that doesn't tell you anything as far as what the concentration is. You just want to know what the units per milliliter are for that Pfizer pen question if you get asked that. All right, so flow rate questions. Let's just go back to the flow rate beginning and let's do a couple of these. All right, so I think last time I was talking about when we have the strength labeled here when we're doing the flow rate, we don't need to worry about the strength when we're talking about flow rate. We need to worry about that and make sure the patient's actually receiving what they are supposed to be receiving. But as far as the like the math components, this doesn't really have much of a variation or influence on your answer. So that's why I've crossed out the 200 milligrams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the flow rate, which is 75 milliliters in 30 minutes, times my drop factor, which is 10. And then we're just going to plug that into the calculator. So 75 times 10 divided by 30. And then I'm going to get 25 drops per minute. And I would do the same thing here. I would ignore the 200 milligrams, but this time it tells me a 250 ml bag in 2.5 hours. So you can do this a couple different ways. So I'm going to show you, I'll show you the long way first. Because we're looking for drops per minute, I want to make sure that I'm converting my hours to minutes. So sometimes I'll do that first, sometimes I'll do that last. So I'm going to do it last. So I'm going to take my drops per milliliter, and then I'm going to convert my hours to minutes. Just need to make sure that you're accounting for that, because if you don't, then you're going to your math won't look right. It'll be like a tiny number. So if I take the 250 times 15 divided by 2.5 and then divided by 60, again I get the same answer I got previously, which is 25. So there's a couple different ways we can also do this. I could take the 250 divided by 2.5, which would give me 100 milliliters per hour, which is the same thing as 100 milliliters over 60 minutes times the 15. I could also just take the 2.5 times 60, and then I could say something like 250 milliliters over 150 minutes times my drop factor. Okay, so you have a couple different ways to get to the same answer. I'm just showing you the variations there. So if you do it a particular way, then just keep doing it the way that you do it. As long as you're getting the right answer, you're doing it right. For this here, I'm just going to take my 120 milliliters over 90 minutes. 90 minutes is the same thing as 1.5 hours, or you just convert minutes to hours. So notice this time I'm multiplying by 60 instead of dividing by 60. So if I'm going from hours to minutes, um, depending on where it is, right? So if that's why sometimes it's helpful to write out what you're eliminating, which is why I always write it out this way when I'm showing you. I do it instinctively, so I'm not like really thinking about it, but that doesn't help you out when I tell you to do things like that. So just it's helpful sometimes just to show you in case you get stuck or you're starting to get numbers that are incorrect, assuming the key is not wrong. This one is just 375 milliliters over the 3 hours, and that is 125 milliliters per hour. I worked through these last time, right? So the trick with these is, or it's not a trick, but what I chose to do is I start with the flow rate that they give me, which is the 8,000 units per hour. And then I just convert the units per hour to milliliters per hour by using what I have available. And the available is the IV 500 milliliters. So I put the 500 milliliters on top, 20,000 units of the heparin. So I put that on the bottom. The units cancel out. I'm left with milliliters per hour. And then I just get my answer here for this one is 200 milliliters per hour. And I can do the same thing going in reverse. So I can go from milliliters per hour to units per hour just by reversing the process. Okay. So just, but let's look at this here. These are insulin infusions. So it says we're supposed to infuse 250 ml of the 10 units or 10 units of insulin is found in the 250 ml, and it's infusing at 2 units per hour. So it's kind of going kind of slow. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my 2 units per hour. I'm going to multiply by, or that's my current flow rate, but because I'm looking for milliliters per hour, what I want to try and do is convert units to milliliters. So I can cancel that out and then just be left with milliliters. Okay. So what is my milliliters? 250. What is my units? 10. And then we're just going to do that math. So 500 divided by 10 is 50. So we'll get 50 ml per hour. So that's what we would program into the infusion pump. Even though that seems like, why would you be doing that? I don't know. If there's probably specific circumstances with the insulin that you would be doing that versus just doing the insulin injection. But if they only want you putting in 2 units per hour and they don't want someone coming in there and doing that manually every hour, then that might be the reason why. I don't know. For this one, we're infusing at 25 units per hour. But again, I don't want units per hour. I want milliliters per hour. So I just want to see, can I convert units to milliliters? I can, because my units of insulin are in the 500 milliliter IV. I think this ends up being the same answer. So 25 times 500 divided by 100. Oh, no, it's different. This is going to be 125 milliliters per hour. So we have different variations, right, of how we administer that and how we get to that point. Now, if it asked me to go from milliliters per hour, so let's say they gave me let's say they gave me 100 milliliters per hour, and then they wanted to know what that would be in units per hour. I'm just going to do the inverse. So I'll have milliliter in units. So whatever that happens to be. So let's say it's 250 milliliters and 20,000 units. And then I would just do that calculation, and I would get 100 times 20,000 divided by 250. And then what we are doing here is we're eliminating milliliters this time. We'll be left with units per hour. And then we would get 8,000 units per hour. This is if they asked you to go from ml per hour to units per hour. This is just an example, a side question. So this is not related to this question up here. This is just its own separate question. So let me just box it out just in case you come back to this and wonder what the heck I was talking about. Okay. I think that question is only really relative to what I've seen on like ATI. I don't know that I've seen that on other or I haven't seen on any tests that you've been given, but maybe ATI, they might ask you to go from milliliters per hour to units per hour. I would assume that the standard is getting to milliliters per hour. And then finally, the last flow rate question that I have listed here is just like going based off of time. So if we have 1 liter of an IV solution that's being administered at 250 milliliters per hour, it starts at 10 a.m. on Monday. What time will it finish? So we just want to know how long this will last. So 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of milliliters, convert it to hours, just using my flow rate. So I'm inverting the flow rate. So this is going to last 4 hours. So like if you do this in your head, you're doing it perfectly right. So don't change anything I'm doing. So if it started 10 a.m. on Monday, 4 hours from then would be 11, 12, 1, 2. But they want you to write that probably in military time. So it'd be 1400 hours still on Monday or 2 p.m. Monday. All right, so we reviewed flow rate questions, and we reviewed some of the heparin protocol questions. Any other questions? Anything you want to see more of? Let me know. People are like, I'm out of here.
Gerard, I just wanted to ask, if you can tell me where to find the folder again with the practice questions.
So in the link, there's a list of links that they sent to you
I
to
couldn't
let you.
click on it. Like it wasn't clickable on my,
Okay,
I had
then
the Zoom link, but I couldn't click on that folder that was in that. I didn't know.
okay. Well, here, hold on, I might be able to pull it up and then just put the link in the chat here. Hold on.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see here.
Thank you.
And I would say, um, hold on to that link because I mean, or you can always email me and I can send it to you because I'll have that link will is I don't ever change it as far as, at least I haven't had to change it yet. But if you just click there, it should pull up the shared OneDrive folder and then you'll be able to go to it and get that. Sorry that they didn't give you a clickable link. I didn't know how they were gonna disseminate the information to you guys, so
Yeah, thanks. That worked. I can see it now.
All right, cool. Yeah, and what's listed there currently is the unmarked version of what I put together. Now, did they give you guys a packet this semester, like with some practice questions, or no?
Yes, they did.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah,
I
so
just wanted to see if like to do other practice problems.
you got it. Yeah,
Cool.
so I'll say like a lot of it is repeated with what I've written on, or if I've added some things. So there might be some differences, but for the most part, they're pretty consistent. So, but good. You're welcome, Amanda. Yeah, and if you're good and you don't have any other questions, I'll just say, you can always email me between now and when you take your test next week. Um, if you do have questions, but you just want to look over your stuff, just go ahead and look over. I'll be here. But if you're done, then I'll just say like, good luck on your test. I hope you crush it and let me know how you do.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.